Paroma, I just let's start with the last 3 years. Global director, senior director, VP, you've been busy. You've been on the move. You've been making a dent in the universe.
Well, what can I say, Ruben? It's just been fun. How does one not stop having fun, right?
Yeah, right. I love it, though. I love it. Moving quickly, a lot of initiative in your life right now. And so we just want to talk a little bit about how you got to this place, in the sense that I know that your career, at least from what you described to me, you made some choices that at the time seemed counterintuitive. You were going against the grain. Other people were maybe questioning your judgment. So why don't we start with some examples of that? Because I think that's the most interesting careers that I have seen have been people that made a left turn when others say go right? They kind of follow that still inner voice, to use my language. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of the interesting career choices you made to get where you are today.
Sure. So Ruben, I started my career in the semiconductor world. That was my first job, National Semiconductor, back when it was independent and not, now of course it's part of Texas Instruments. But I spent 5 years there, and I realized that I love the work, right? Of course, marketing for a technology company like that. I learned so much. It was hard. It was sink or swim. I learned a lot. I had excellent relationships. But I realized something, that companies like that are very bottom line focused, right? And I wanted to work on innovation. And the whole seasonal hiring and firing cycles and the impact that it puts on, Wall Street, stock price, shareholder, and ultimately focus of a company, I realized I was never going to be able to stay on that innovation curve if I stayed at a company like that. And that's when I realized I need to move up the value chain towards software, right? Where margin constraints are not always going to push the direction of R&D dollars. And because of that, I had to make a series of decisions. How do I get from hardware to software? It's not one step. It's multiple years, a multiple sort of journey with small steps. And every time you have to go one step further. Every time, Ruben, believe it, people told me, no, you just take the next job. So go from a national to a Maxim or a TI. Don't go somewhere else because it'll be harder for you. And yeah, of course it was harder, right? Of course, every step was a huge learning curve. But if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have been able to lock into that North Star and actually take the steps and get to what matters to me, to what fulfills me. So,
but looking back, it seems so self-evident that those were the right moves, and that was one thing built on the next, and there was momentum. But that was a pretty brave decision, though, right? Because you were having success in hardware world, right? I mean, I'm sure people were saying, hey, stick around, you got a future here. But you were saying, no, I want to go. There wasn't a clear path because there were several steps you referenced, right? So it wasn't like you had all this mapped out. It seems like you just knew what the best next step was.
Exactly. And like they say, right, you have to use transferable skills. So when going from a National Semiconductor to a Dolby Laboratories, completely different business model, right? I can't tell them, hey, I know your business, so hire me. No, I had to say, I know audio and I know this world, and here's how I will translate what I know to what you know, and also learn along the way to be a more effective marketer. And I had to make that argument several times. For each of my change, I never went to a competitor. I've always moved to a very different business model in that longer journey. So yes, you're absolutely right. It was very not evident at the time what the map was going to be like. But the next step was clearer. And then the next step got a little clearer. So that's the way it went.
Yeah, right. It got a little clearer. And a theme that's come up on this show a couple of times are two themes. One is imposter syndrome. The other one is second guessing. Even when you know you make the right decision, it doesn't mean that necessarily won't be some second guessing going on. Any of those two themes resonate with you at all as part of this transition from hardware to software?
Not a lot of imposter syndrome, because I would always make it clear, this is where I'm coming from and this is why I'm interested in this role. This learning piece, that's what is drawing me in. Kid you not, right? It's the learning that's why I'm talking to you, Mr. Interviewer, for example.
Yeah.
Second guessing, yes. I mean, of course, all my friends, all my ex-colleagues were still in that domain, and I've moved to a completely brand new. So yes, for a time when I'm still learning the model and the business model and the new technology, there is a time when I'm like, did I bite off too much? Am I going to be able to be successful?
Right.
And yeah, it's stressful because I'm staying up nights learning while daytime I'm, doing my job. Yeah, it's that, but it's not that. It's not for a very extended time, right? It's maybe 3 months or 60 days in some places. The learning curve is steep, but you also learn very fast because you're excited and you're open and you're just, I feel sometimes I call myself the Pac-Man, right? The game where it goes and eats up everything around it. So I feel every time I'm in a new role, I'm just eating up all the knowledge around me. It's just
How do you build? Because part of this is also the people you're surrounded by, right? So when you go into these different roles, how do you build winning coalitions? Is important, right? To have the right relationships and the right internal and external stakeholders that you're supporting and supporting you. Any insights on that? Because you made the shift so many times. How would you learn and expand yourself, for lack of a better term? What kind of initiative do you take?
It's interesting you asked me that because I was not very good at this when I was much younger. It's now in the recent few years that I feel I'm making a lot more intentional choices with who I should engage when. What does that look like? So in this role, I've just taken on this new vice president role with SAP. It's just been 2 months. Here, I've been a lot more intentional about mapping out my stakeholders, actually even mapping out the detractors and my supporters and lining up the patterns so that I'm more effective. And it's not just me putting my message out there. It's all these people out there who are also supporting me through influence and not necessarily because they have to.
Right.
Yeah. So that network of supporters and people that will aggregate to make my business more powerful, I'm a lot more intentional about that now. But of course, all those decisions back then helped me get here, helped me understand the importance of this, right?
When did you know it was time to take the next step? I'm not talking about your initial one, but when you saw this chain reaction of steps, did you just intuitively have a sense that, I've been here for 18 months, I've been here for 2 years, I've learned what I can learn, I've contributed, I need to keep going? Or was there a little push-pull? Some opportunities would find you, some you would take the initiative on. How did that?
Almost all of it was push, and here's the way it would come to me. This might sound very flippant, but it's not. I would get bored, right? And that happens when I stop learning, when I feel that now I'm in my comfort zone, so I don't have to exert. I'm getting my work done in half the time as I used to before. I'm not learning enough. I'm not waking up in the morning excited about 3 new things I'm going to try today. It's become mundane. It's become, yet another day in the life of Paroma Sen, right?
Yeah.
When that comes to me, then I'm like, I have to take the next step because I'm ready for the next step in a certain way.
Did you ever have to negotiate with other constituents, like a partner or family members? Were there any internal negotiations that had to take place as well to build support around the decision that you wanted to make or you were making?
Not in a consultative way that I think you're talking about. I don't typically tend to consult. I do have soundboarding conversations with my father and my friends and so on. But somewhere, when you're making a decision, I do the pros and cons just like everyone. Right. Pros and cons. But ultimately, I know my heart is in one direction. And no matter how I write the pros and cons, I take a step back and I think about where do I want to go? That overwhelming desire, it does manifest itself. And then the pros and cons don't matter as much because I'm so keen in, I need to go, the need to go in a certain direction becomes so strong that just every other option sort of falls away.
I love that. And that also gives a lot of peace when you make that decision because you're kind of synced up internally of like what's happening, why you're going, and your enthusiasm and your peace, it sounds like. Let's talk about some organizations that you joined where, again, this theme that I love, which is going against the grain, following your instincts, following your heart, making big, bold career decisions. I love this. Because a lot of people could have tapped out. A lot of people could have said, look, I'm making good money. I've got a comfortable job and I managed to reduce the amount of work I've done by half. I'm good. I can coast for a while. Yeah. I'm not per se making a value judgment on that. I'm just saying that wasn't for you. You just want to keep on growing and keep on growing. But you did end up in some organizations where there was some pressure, if I'm not mistaken, for you to make some decisions that you did not feel comfortable with. There was some institutional pressure, some peer pressure. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that as well, because it wasn't all roses, right? You landed in some places that were interesting. I'm going to use that term.
Yeah, that's a good word. That's a good term. So let me talk about why I ended up there in the first place, right? So there was this period of time after I'd done the National, I'd done the Dolby, I'd done my MBA, and I wanted to both get leadership experience as well as build up my digital marketing side of my skill set, right? To be a more rounded out 360-degree marketer. And I did get opportunities. So they were more in the startup space, right? So I worked for 3 or 4 different startups in a period of about 3 years, which helped. I was a CMO for those organizations, and digital was strong. So I was learning at night and doing my job during the day. It seems to be a theme. But there was one startup there, Ruben. I think that's helped me learn about myself as well.
Okay.
Essentially, I won't mention the names. It was a real estate company. They don't exist anymore. Marketing is a cost center, right? So you're always managing budgets, media spends. They wanted me to do something not great with the budget, which is show an increase in the number of visitors to the website. How does that happen in marketing? At the lowest cost, by paying students to go click on the website, or doing a bot-sized approach, which results in not real leads, right? So you're not really delivering value for the amount of money spent. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. This is the MD of the company telling me spend his money in this way. And I was like, I'm not going to do that, right? Because I won't be able to wake up the next morning and face myself in the mirror.
Yeah.
Right. And everyone around me told me, this is the way business is done. Get with it. You need to learn the way the world works. And I thought about it, and probably half my hair turned gray at the time because I didn't have any other job. And I was thinking of walking away. And I did walk away. And I think it was a great decision because, just like you said, the relief that you feel, the satisfaction of doing what you believe is right, it is unparalleled. No amount of money in the world can match up to that feeling.
No, the ability to look yourself in the mirror, right, and I suppose self-respect is a word that's coming to mind for me.
Yeah.
And you know where your limits are, right? And
right.
Data manipulation was just like, nope, not going there. We either win clean or we don't win at all, right?
Exactly.
That's right.
If I hadn't done that, I would forever be thinking back to that moment as a moment of regret.
Yeah.
So I think I passed a good one.
But the pressure was real, though, right? I mean,
yeah.
Right. And so when you're going through it, was it a lonely experience a little bit in the sense that, like, am I the only one here who's not drinking the Kool-Aid? Like, what's going on here? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, everyone in that company, all my peers seem to think that, hey, this is a business as usual, and we've done this many times. We'll continue doing that. Of course, in the next 6 months, they went bankrupt This is after I left. So they didn't continue to exist. But even the people, my friends, other family consultants, they seem to think that you have this job, keep this job, make your stakeholders happy, and just conform, right? Don't raise ruckus, or don't shake the boat. Forget what it's called.
Right.
Don't upset the apple cart. That's what almost everybody told me, and I couldn't do it.
I respect that. That's a powerful decision. Yeah, that's a very powerful decision. Yeah. And then you went on to have more success, right? So you went on. So you've been building upon one lesson after another and keeping going. What do you think you took from this is an interesting one. What do you think you took from the hardware world, and what do you think you took from some of the startups that you brought into organizations, right? It was one thing for them to say, well, look, I don't know your world fully. This is what I bring. But what were some of the things you brought with you that benefited organizations that they may not have had? Does that make sense?
In the most obvious ways, it's my industry knowledge, because I've worked across now multiple industries.
Around 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that helps a lot. Even with my current role, we are marketing to multiple industries. The messaging, the language, the pain points, the challenges, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
The digital marketing that I picked up through my startup years, that helps a lot, because it's very technical compared to the other kinds of marketing that more traditional marketers use every day. It's
more science, right? It's a little bit more scientific.
Exactly.
Right.
And there's jargon involved, and there's performance parameters, there's trade-offs, there's variables that you can, the levers you pull are different. But otherwise, I have learned how to do lean marketing, right? With smaller budgets, how to make each dollar go more. Because I've been in an industry where spending, it's difficult to spend too much in a hardware world because you're always looking at costs. People's jobs are at stake. So you don't want to spend on marketing that much that's going to, result in people losing their jobs because the numbers aren't working out or something like that, right? You're more appreciative about the budgets you're given and you're more thoughtful about spending it. I think that's critical to learn as a marketer because in some companies, you just tend to overspend and not think about it, right?
I love that. And lean marketing, what a great term. Yeah, you have to be smarter with the resources you have and stretch them further and make more hay out of what you've gotten. And I think that's a good exercise for everyone, especially in the environment it seems like we're heading into right now. Those are good skill sets to have, right? I mean, if you, final kind of question for you here, if you, looking back and giving piece of advice to somebody who's also looking to make a courageous decision, maybe it is saying no to an unethical decision. Maybe it is, hey, I'm leaving one industry, going to the next. Around the going against the grain and trusting your gut or trusting your instincts, any words of advice for anyone about to embark on voluntarily or involuntarily on that journey?
Well, I would say have a North Star, have your know where your compass is pointing. But then you would ask me, Ruben, how does one know that? When one is just starting out on their career, it's not easy to know which direction you want to go in. There's not a compelling voice. So for those people, I would say give yourself the space and time to figure out what you are about and what your journey, this one journey on earth, is going to be about. Because once you find that purpose and lock into it, it's just about going and extracting that joy from those steps, right? It's feeling that joy and it's letting it pass through you. But if you give yourself the space and time to understand that, it makes it all much easier. It makes the decisions not that hard. It makes it intuitive and natural and organic. And that's when you're in the flow, right? Like that book, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's book, Flow. So I do consult with a lot of people. I don't always take their advice because ultimately that one North Star sort of guides me around how to take a decision, where to go and what will make me happy. Because ultimately, isn't that why we are here? Is to have a satisfying journey on this planet, right?